Welcome to Buddha at the Gas Pump. My name is Rick Archer. This is an ongoing series of interviews with spiritually awakening people. If you would like to see previous interviews or support our efforts, please go to batgap.com, and I'll give you more details about that at the end of the interview. My guest today is Vasant Swaha, who is down in Brazil at the moment and divides his time pretty much between Brazil and Norway, where he's originally from. And before we get into the interview, I just want to express a thought that I was having this morning, kind of related to my role in doing this interview show. It reminded me of a friend of mine named Mirabai Starr, whom I interviewed last October. She gave a talk at the Science and Non-Duality Conference entitled Bees in the Garden. And she said, like bees in the garden of spirit, we are designed to gather nectar from all the world's spiritual traditions and allow it to become rich honey with which to sustain ourselves and feed the hungry world. We are also endowed with the wisdom to recognize the nourishment and pass over the noxious weeds. And I sort of feel like in my role in doing this interview show, I'm kind of like a bee going from flower to flower and, connecting people with one another, cross-fertilizing in a way. And it gives me a lot of pleasure to hear from people who say that they met their teacher or they met someone they had never known about and had such a wonderful experience or profound awakening or whatever. So it's kind of an honor to be playing that role. And I'm sure the same will occur with Vasant Swaha, whom some of you may not have heard of yet. Here he is. And,
I think
go ahead.
I think you're doing a great job, Rick.
Well, thank you.
I just recently have seen it, but it is really like you are really connecting and making the world smaller in a positive way, It's so much negative things from the internet, from technology. But this is the positive. So it's really beautiful.
Well, thanks. And you're doing, it's like we're all on the same team, and we're just playing different positions, If
Yes.
baseball, some of us are on first base, some of us are at shortstop, and, but you can't really run the team without all those positions. So,
I had a really hard time to find my master in my time,
Mm-hmm.
I had to travel all the way to India, and it was very difficult. But now it's an explosion of teachers.
It is, isn't it? And the fact that it's an explosion kind of gives me a lot of optimism for the world. It makes me feel like, despite all the serious problems that we hear about on the news and so on, something really good is happening that's not making the news very much, but that is very powerful and gives us a lot of hope for the future. Don't you think?
Well, I think it touches more and more people. So in that way, it's beautiful, but it's always the world is more and more negative, and it's also getting more and more positive. So it's a balance then.
Yeah, like the polarities are increasing in a way.
Yeah, It's getting more and more unconscious, and also you have the balance. People are waking up and they're getting more conscious, but it has to spread, and I feel you are doing your part in that, spreading it.
Yeah.
Like all of us are doing,
Yeah. Kind of reminds me of the Bhagavad Gita, where the polarities had increased to the point where supposedly the good guys and the bad guys were all sorted out into two armies, and with God standing in the middle, between the two armies. And then there was this huge shift and resolution and balancing of tendencies and qualities, and so something like that's going on.
It has to change. It has to change, otherwise it's really going downhill. So it has to change.
Yeah. So you alluded. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
People are already changing a lot. Like when I started, just yoga was a foreign name. Now everybody's into yoga. I mean, what they call yoga is just hatha yoga. It's just the physical, but at least it's the beginning.
Yeah, and usually one thing leads to the next.
We have to start with the physical body.
Mm-hmm. So you said you went to India to find your teacher. Let's get into your story a little bit, because you do have an interesting story, and so that people can get to know you a little bit better. So you're from Norway, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you as I recall reading your story, you were pretty young when you became aware that there was a lot more to life than meets the eye, and you began searching.
Well, I think I always had that in me. I wanted to be free, but I didn't know what that freedom meant. And even when I was so little, like 5, 6, I wanted to leave my family. But I had a really good family. It wasn't because anything was bad, but it was just the impulse in me that I wanted to. I remember something else maybe. And that was thrilling me, something unknown. And when I was only 14, 15, I finished school. I couldn't handle school and they couldn't handle me. So then it started really. And of course, I was my parents' worst nightmare maybe. Not that I was bad, but just that it was very, very different from the norm, no?
Yeah.
It was very, very different. So I left very early, and I always was positive, saying, I don't need that, you know, I don't need to study, it's something else. And I didn't find that before I found Osho, you know, when I tried many things, you know, like getting lost and the hippie days and, you know, all these, the drugs and the alcohol and all this, but it went very, very quick, just a few years.
Yeah.
And then I met Osho when maybe I was 20 years old. And before that, I had also gone to India because I was pulled to India, especially to the Himalayas. And that was part of that too. It was something known that I couldn't put my finger on, you know, but it was some old memory in me from the East or from the Himalayas. And as soon as I was in India, I felt at home.
Do you feel that a lot of spiritual people have done a lot of work in past lives to, you know, create a certain momentum that just gets resumed in this life?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, because I remember many things from the past, you know.
You actually remember specific things from past lives?
Yeah, I also had been with my master in the past, and many people I have met, we have a connection from the past.
Right.
I think that is natural, and it's the consciousness that wants to evolve.
Yeah.
Or the love, you know, the love connection.
Some people kind of reject the notion of past lives because they feel like, well, essentially there is no person, you know, there is no individuality, we're just universal spirit, so how could there be past lives? Because that implies that something or other is carrying on from one body to the next. So how do you reconcile those two ideas?
Well, I haven't gone so much into it, but as long as you are seeking and you haven't found the truth or yourself, your true self, then it's something that is seeking, that is longing. Yeah, when you have found your center, then it's no more seeking. Then you are not identified with the seeking anymore. You don't long for that process.
Yeah.
So maybe that is what's carrying us on. You know, that connection till you are self-realized. Then something is broken. Then you are home again.
Jumping ahead of our story, we'll go back, but jumping ahead of our story, you know, it must have been quite a few years now since you became self-realized, and yet, do you feel that you know, realization was actually not the end of the road? That even since then there has been continued growth in some respect, integration, refinement, you know, deepening, clarification, anything like that?
Definitely, because when it happens, I had no idea that was what was happening, because it's totally new.
Yeah.
And when you had a master like I had, of course you put him very up, no? because he has given you so much. And also he was like not only a master, but the master of the masters, I would say. It was huge.
Mm-hmm.
So you could never, it was almost impossible that you could have that experience. Even though, you know, I wasn't there for enlightenment, it was just life that was happening in that way.
Mm-hmm.
And when I met one man, it was the 16th Karmapa, by chance. And they also had a connection from the past, the 16th Karmapa and Osho. Mm. In fact, he said that Osho was the greatest enlightened being in India since Buddha. Mm. That is big words. But when I met Karmapa, just by chance, I almost just was sneaking into his meeting with a friend who had been waiting 4 years to meet him. And by chance, I was there. So I don't know how it happened. And when I came in there, then it was us who started talking. And then I realized that there's other enlightened beings. That was the first time.
Other besides Osho, you mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Ah.
Because in those days, it wasn't many. It wasn't this explosion that we are seeing now, no? Or like you are doing, you're talking with so many. Mm-hmm. So for me, that was a really eye-opener at that time. Mm. To see that is more, you know, but what has been happening now, after Osho left his body and after Papaji left his body is huge.
Yeah. I think it's good for people to have that perspective. I was listening to an interview on Skeptico.com with Dr. Jeffrey Martin, who's a researcher who has gone around and interviewed hundreds, if not thousands, of people who are supposedly enlightened or awakened to whatever degree in a kind of a scientific way with these surveys and so on. And he expressed some surprise that even among all these apparently enlightened people, there tended to be a certain fundamentalism, a certain attitude that our way is the best, or our type of realization is the best, and everything else is a little bit less than that. And it seems to me that that's a kind of a human shortcoming that creeps its way into a lot of spiritual groups and spiritual people. And I don't know, do you have any comments about that based on your experience?
Well, then they're not spiritual, as far as I'm concerned.
Or not, perhaps not as spiritual as they might become.
Yeah. Or they think they are, because you cannot have any opinions. It doesn't belong to anything. It's freedom itself, you know. Yeah. It's nothingness. That division, that separation has to go for the whole to appear. You have to leave for the whole to come. And then all this is just a joke. And even the master then is no separation. Mm. So it's a paradox, because as what I have gone through is like you need the master, but you don't need the master, no? You are and you are not.
Right.
It's both. But as long as you are identified with a physical form or a mind or an ego, then that will help. You know, that is the beauty of the enlightened ones, that you get recognized. That is what satsang is. Mm-hmm. You come back to your own self. And nobody is teaching this in the world, as far as I'm concerned, except the gurus or the mystics or the masters, you know?
Yeah. Right, it's not something you're likely to learn in high school.
No.
But there are a lot of spiritual teachers out there teaching this stuff. But I guess the point I was making is that there tends to be in many spiritual groups this sort of holier than thou attitude, and it's just almost like if we were talking about food, some people are saying, well, they're not just saying I like Indian food better than Italian food. They're saying Indian food is the best. Everybody, mm-hmm. If everybody really wants to appreciate food, they should just have Indian food, because it's better than all other kinds of food. So to me, that seems a little narrow-minded.
Yeah, it's very narrow-minded, but you have to know it. People are narrow-minded if they can say something like that, because it's maybe his part or my part that you met that guru or that path or the Sufi or the Zen or the Buddhist. But this has nothing to do with it when you realize it, you know.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what path you take up the mountain. Yeah, it's like that.
Well, speaking of paradox, though, are there qualitative differences between paths, or is it really a matter of, you know, whatever path you gravitate toward? Well, you know, there's a verse in the Gita that says, because one can perform it, one's own dharma, though lesser in merit, is better than the dharma of another. The dharma of another brings danger. You know, better is death in one's own dharma. So it's sort of like in one verse it says, okay, yeah, there could be qualitative differences between different paths, but at the same time you should choose the one that's right for you, and that will be better than one that is somehow intrinsically, on some kind of objective scale, more effective or higher. That's more of a statement than a question, but you feel free to respond.
No, I have nothing to say, because when the student or the disciple is ready, then the master appears, it says, you know, and that was what happened for me. So I can't.
Yeah.
I can only talk about my own experience. You know, I have no. I mean, God bless anybody who finds a master or a teacher. That's what I say. You know, it has nothing to do with that.
Good.
As long as the path gets more and more light, as long as they get more and more happy, long as they get more and more loving, compassionate, free, light-hearted, non-serious, God bless them, you know, it's like that.
So, you shall know them by their fruits, as the saying goes.
Yeah. But like you asked before, definitely it took a long time for me to incorporate it when it happened. It is like, it's not like, I see those people also that is like they come for one or two satsang and then they want to have a certificate that they are enlightened. You know? It's not like that, you know, because it's you are totally lost in a way. You know, I had to start functioning again without knowing myself, and that took a long many years. Yeah.
So, and that's not an uncommon thing either. I mean, Eckhart Tolle went through that. He basically just sat on a park bench for a couple of years after his awakening, and you know, tried to make sense of it. Byron Katie went through that, and there are plenty of other, hundreds of other people who can report similar experiences. So what you're saying is that awakening is not the whole package. That a profound awakening has to be integrated, and that can take years, right?
Yeah. It is shattering when it happens, but shattering in a good way. And for me, it happened when I was still in Pune, but Osho had left the body a year before. So I was in a limbo that I didn't know what to do anymore, because in a way, why I was there, I was gone. The Vasta was gone. And I had not much interest to lead the groups and the therapies and the meditation and all this. And then something happened that all my wires in my head got rewired in a way. And I didn't find myself. I didn't know who I was. I was like a newborn, clean baby in a grown-up body. And it was very interesting, because I went to the ashram and I said, I can't do this, what I've been doing up till now anymore. And even there, nobody understood. And I was feeling that this is why we are here. This is what the master wanted to give us. It's like something beautiful is happening. But they were thinking about the money and the groups and the business. So that was an eye-opener for me also, that even there, in the communes or in the mystery schools, you cannot see it. You can easily miss it, no?
In the mystery schools around Osho's ashram, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
it sounds like... I'm sorry, go ahead.
It was very few people. It was just a few Indians, I felt, who had been with Osho in the early days. who maybe it's more in their genes also to see that some transformation had happened. So I totally retreated, just like Eckhart Tolle said, he sat on the bench, I sat on my balcony and watching the river, you know, it's
Yeah.
like that. But then luckily, or I don't know luckily, but then I met Papaji, and he incorporated that.
Yeah. Let's probe into that a little bit. So first of all, with regard to the awakening, how long had you been with Osho before he died?
12 years, 13 years.
That's pretty long. And so I know you were his bodyguard at one point, so you were fairly close to him, or one of his bodyguards. And so what kind of... Did you also come to Oregon? Were you up at the ashram there?
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That was quite a scene from what I understand.
Oh, yeah, I wouldn't have missed that for anything.
Yeah. And so and incidentally, I should just interject here, and before asking this question, that sometimes when I've interviewed quite a few people who were with Osho, and when I do, I get feedback from certain people who say, "Oh, brother, another Osho person," and they have this attitude toward Osho that's based upon things that we were hearing in the news during those days in Oregon and stuff like that. And yet generally the people I've interviewed have just nothing but positive feelings about him, and I respect that. I was with Maharishi Mahesh Yogi during the days you were with Osho, and the two of them actually had some sort of rivalry going where they would kind of make these somewhat disparaging comments about one another. So, and I kind of look back on the whole thing as, with Maharishi, that he was a remarkable soul, extraordinary man, but he was a man. And as a man, he had flaws and shortcomings, and he was a human being, with human foibles. Have you kind of, do you have that attitude toward Osho even, or do you see him in retrospect as having been really perfect and without any sort of shortcomings or flaws?
No, I think everybody has that. You are in a physical body and you have your things,
Yeah.
So that is clear for everybody. I think it's not like they say about Mahavira for the Jains in India, that when he got cut, then milk and honey was coming out,
Yeah.
And it's not like that. They are not shifting gold, no.
Yeah.
So but is the master for me is that it can help tremendously to open your heart or your seeking or your consciousness. And because, look how difficult it is even for people to start driving a car or learning mathematics or playing a guitar.
Yeah, you need a teacher.
You need a teacher and that is for me, as soon as I came into his energy field, and especially when I started guarding or being physical around him, it was like it was so dense, so thick of nectar that I could cut it.
Yeah.
It was like that. So it's beyond any. I think it's nothing to do with that. I'm just talking for me. I don't care.
Yeah. No, I totally know what you mean, and I've had that experience myself. It's like the darshan is so thick you can cut it with a knife, and like you say.
So that goes beyond anything. It's like when your heart, your mind, your soul opens, it's like you're not functioning from reason anymore. You're functioning out of love or a longing for the truth. It's like this. You have felt something that goes beyond the mind.
Yeah. I think that one thing that concerns people, though, is that there have been so many instances of people who have discarded reason and who have begun to sort of take every utterance of their master as the sort of gospel truth, that can't be disputed, rather than sort of maintaining some degree of discrimination and discernment, The Buddha, for instance, was famous for saying, don't accept anything because I said it. Just, measure it against your own experience, and you should be the final arbiter of what's useful and what's not for you. And there have been so many instances in which people have kind of gotten into trouble by following teachers blindly, without any discrimination, and have ended up being disillusioned or taken advantage of or something like that. So, and it has given some people the attitude that the whole guru scene is a thing of the past and is no longer appropriate in our modern day, modern culture.
Yeah.
So I'm just airing those points for the benefit of those who have been pondering those issues, to see what you have to say about them.
I think it's great, but any guru is opening the eyes. It doesn't make them blind, no? So either the people are not, they need to follow blindly. They don't have the intelligence to see through or follow their own. But the master is there to open your own intelligence, both in the heart and in the mind. So it's not like the master say, yeah, maybe in the beginning, because it's like you fall in love, it's the honeymoon.
Right.
Yeah. But as you go deeper, then it's your own truth that responds. Any master would say that, don't follow me, but take, look at it, what I'm saying, feel what I'm saying, meditate on it, go deeper. Maybe it rings true. Maybe it's your own experience. And as far as I'm concerned, there's only one truth. It doesn't matter if it comes from Krishnamurti or from Osho or from Ramana, or it doesn't matter, it's like, there's nothing to do. God bless you if you have found the master, And I also know this with the master or the guru in the West, and I totally understand that, that they are, but in a way we don't need that anymore. But that can also be totally a poop out, because you do need it.
Yeah.
You do need it. And the one who still is enslaved by the ego or the mind, of course they don't want a guru or a master. They don't want to surrender. No ego wants to surrender. So then how can they pull them up by their own shoelaces?
Right.
It's impossible. So I know that, and I'm not identified in any role, but I can play different roles. If it's helpful, it's like Ramana said, you need a tone to put out another tone, maybe, But who cares, Afterwards, you will laugh about it. It's like, no, I can laugh about Osho, that crackpot. That doesn't matter,
Yeah.
It's like that, because he worked, and Papaji worked, and Ramesh Balsakar worked. They're all friends, on the path for me,
Yeah,
It's like
good point. The proof of the pudding is in the eating, they say.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I, for instance, have a number of friends and have interviewed a few people who were with a guy named Adi Da, and I don't know if you know who he was, but sometimes he was called Baba Frijan, and he did some really crazy stuff. I mean, really out there, really quite decadent. I wouldn't even want to mention some of the things on a, family-oriented show, but I'm very impressed with some of the people that were his students. They really got something out of it despite the craziness. Yeah, which is not to excuse or pardon craziness. I mean, I'm not saying that it should give teachers liberty to just do whatever the heck they please, and with the sense that, oh, I am perfect and whatever I do has got to be right. That could be very dangerous. But surprisingly, sometimes people who have that, teachers who have that attitude, still manage to turn out some pretty impressive students.
Yeah.
And I'm not implying for a second that you're doing anything like this. I don't know anything about your scene. I got a very good feeling listening to videos and so on. In fact, it was really sweet, because most of the time when I prepare for these interviews, it's kind of intellectual. I'm listening to people give talks and all sorts of intellectual stuff, and it was just really sweet listening to some beautiful devotional music and seeing the joy and the love and so on that seems to predominate in your ashram. And I've had some very devotional, loving times in my own life, and so it was kind of nostalgic and just very nourishing to experience that.
Well, I don't really have any teaching. I don't have. I haven't written any book. This is the first time I'm on Skype.
Really? Oh, okay. Congratulations.
So, yeah, you pulled me out of this, Rick. So, you know, I'm not much, it's no, like I have to come out, and it's an intimate thing, you know.
Yeah.
And for me, love, or the feeling, it's intimate, you know. So yeah, books can do a lot, but that is just the beginning, you know. And they can read so many beautiful books. It's all out there. Everybody is giving out a book, or all the beautiful masters that has been. But for me, it's the setting, you know. I feel like it's now, because the truth is in the moment. It's happening now, and it's the energy that can transform, that is happening here and now. And that is what is beautiful with this also, why I said, yeah, this Skype, let's try that, because it's happening now.
Yeah.
You know?
No, I can relate to that. I mean, I've lived in ashrams and around situations like that, and I know that the energy can become very palpable, you know, very rich and thick, and you just bathe in that atmosphere, and it can be very transformative. And I do get the feeling that you're helping to create that sort of atmosphere in your, you know, places in Brazil and Norway, and people around you seem to be very happy. So, you know,
yeah,
great.
Something is
Something's
working.
happening.
You know? Something is happening. But I wouldn't say I have an ashram, because I don't want to be locked in an ashram.
Okay.
But I'm creating both.
Some kind of facility.
I have long retreats,
Mm-hmm.
but then I also want people to be free and me to be free. It's not like we are there all the time, you know.
Right.
I have both. Like Osho, he created a huge ashram,
Mm-hmm.
but Papaji was totally against any ashram, anything like that. So maybe this was my two biggest influences, I would say.
Yeah.
So I have a balance. I have an ashram, but I don't have an ashram. It's both.
Yeah.
So they can also incorporate this in their life, in their ordinary life, because the ashram can also become like a safe zone, you know?
Right.
You have to live your own life in the world and bring that what you learn in meditation and in self-inquiry and being together in love, bring that into the world and be more creative, you know?
Yeah.
It's like that's the challenge.
Yeah, it can be like a womb or an incubator, and you know, at a certain point, the chick is ready to leave the incubator, and if the chick tries to stay in the incubator, it's kind of a cramped situation. You know, it's time for the chick to go out and start pecking around in the farmyard.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, here anybody can come and go as they want. It's total freedom.
Right. So
There's no rules, no regulations. Nothing to follow except your heart.
Yeah, that's great. So when you were talking about your awakening that happened a year after you'd been with Osho, or after he passed away, it sounded like it was quite sudden, like you were taking a shower or eating breakfast or something, and all of a sudden, pow, there was a big shift. Is that kind of the way it was?
No. In fact, I was in the middle of leading a therapy group in the ashram, a Tantra and Hara group, centering group. And then I got very sick. But I had been going through this dilemma, like what to do now, or in inside questioning myself. What is it now that is happening, or who am I now in this new? And then I got very sick with dengue fever or malaria.
Ooh.
And I was just laying at home, and I wasn't good taken care of. So it was quite serious. And in that process, when I came back after that sickness, which almost killed me, I don't know, but that combination together with that inner spiritual part or meditation or whatever, I don't know, it created something that when I came back again, I was totally different.
Interesting.
It changed in that week. It changed totally.
Yeah.
And for the longest time, I remember going down to the little bakery in this Indian street from my house, and I could use hours, and it's like 200 meters. And I could stop and watch the children, and being in awe with this, or talking to the little cat. I mean, it was just like a 3-year-old again. It was totally amazing. So I felt super fragile. And you don't even know it, but I knew where my space was, and I knew how to get these things. And that took a long time to absorb or integrate, or whatever you should call it. And that Papaji helped me a lot to do when I met him.
Interesting about the sickness. A similar thing happened to St. Francis. He was very, at least according to that movie, Brother, Sun, Sister, Moon, he was very sick and almost died, and then he came out of it in kind of in a transformed state. I thought of the phrase, catharsis precedes metamorphosis.
Yeah.
Or another way of putting it is, when the postman knows you're going to move, he tries to deliver all your mail. But so that's interesting. And let's talk a bit more about this integration thing, because it's very interesting that you were so childlike and delicate, and perhaps vulnerable would be another word, and it took a long time to sort of toughen up, in a way, I'd say, to integrate, to be able to do normal stuff in that, and yet retain that state of realization, right?
Yeah, the only, everything was gone. The only link I had, in a way, that I knew was the link with the Guru, which I think why the Guru is there in the end, because everything goes. But this was something that this was okay. It was okay. I could feel the presence of the Guru, that this was okay, because nobody else understood, and I didn't even understand. But it was something in me that it is okay. And it was a total acceptance. It was a very blissful space, but it was very new. And I was very fragile and very sensitive on all levels, physical, emotional, like you feel like you are see-through, and you can feel and sense what people are thinking, beyond the words. Right. So that was also, because you don't want to. I don't want to to feel that, because there's so much madness in people's head. No?
Too much, yeah.
So, yeah, too much. So I can totally understand why people have retreated when these things are happening, away from the world, because you just want to have peace. And that came up in me too. I wanted to go back to the Himalayas. I just wanted the solitude of the mountains and the peace and people who lived naturally in the mountain.
Did you find yourself crying a lot during that phase?
No.
Okay.
No.
So that happens sometimes. People have this opening, and then they're very vulnerable, and the heart is like really tender, and they can't go to a movie, for instance, because some simple scene in a movie will get them sobbing, and they'll disrupt all the other people in the theater.
No, that I don't. But crying with children in the street, or like this happen, like a spontaneous thing in the moment, but I don't remember like that.
Yeah.
But I went to the mountains, and I stayed there for a long time to integrate, and I felt like I want to be here, I want to live here. But then it was something else happening, that no, those days are finished. I have to go back to the world. So it was, and I resisted also. I don't want to. No, at last I have peace. I don't want, but it was something that, and then I met Papaji, and he helped me in a way.
Describe that. How did he help you? What was that process?
Well, I was living half time in America and half time in India in those days.
Oregon and
no,
India?
In Long Island.
Long Island, okay.
And because I was staying in America as a base to make money after Oregon for a long time. In the Hamptons, in fact. So I studied the super rich, the super rich, and then I had my rice and dal in India.
What were you doing in the Hamptons? Cooking for people or something, or what?
No, I was doing session, teaching yoga, Tai Chi, meditation, like this.
Cool.
So, and I could charge them a lot.
Yeah.
But And then when I met Papaji, I was on my way back to the Himalayas. And then I had heard, of course, because was all in the circles about Papaji there. And then I took the train to Lucknow. And I came there early in the morning. And I think his satsang was starting like 7, 8 o'clock in the morning. So I just reached the satsang house. And it was very few people in those days that came. And we had the satsang, and when I was sitting there, I was thinking, I'm not looking for a master, I'm not looking for a guru. I don't look for anything, in fact, but it's something I'm here for. But I have nothing to ask, I don't know, you know. I felt like, what am I doing here? But I'm here, and it was very right that I was there. Mm-hmm. And also it was this traditional Indian, like Hindu with the guru, and it was a little foreign for me.
Really? Even after all that time with Osho, it was foreign
yeah.
to you?
Yeah, it was a different setting there. Mm. It was a different setting. But then after the satsang was finished, and I was still sitting there just a few minutes, then one of his caretakers came and asked that Papaji was asking for you, mm-hmm. to see you. And then I went into his room, and he asked me, do you know where I live? And I said, no, Papa, I just came now. This is my first time. And he said, then come. And he grabbed my arm and took me out. And all his disciples were standing outside in Namaste, waiting for the master. And then we came pulling out. I didn't even have my flip-flops with me. And into the car, and I went to his house. And then he said, no, you know where I live. No, you come for lunch tomorrow. That's how it happened. And next day for lunch, then I asked him a question that, no, I know this ocean of peace, of love, but sometimes the past, the mind is coming, that you leave the ocean. And
in other words, sometimes you found yourself getting caught up in the mind and losing the ocean status?
Yeah, it was a very new thing, no?
Yeah.
The balance, it wasn't...
Right, totally stabilized.
Yeah, and then I realized that this is why I wanted to check, because he was like a lion. There was no bullshit there.
Right.
And then he just looked at me, and of course in that situation I was totally intent, focused on him, on the question. And he said, just drop the ocean also.
What did that mean to you?
Everything disappeared.
Really?
Everything disappeared. It was nothing left. And just we started laughing, looking into each other's eyes, and we started laughing and rolling on the floor and thumping each other, just like people totally blissed out. Huh. And then afterwards, he wanted to feed me mangoes and peeling the mangoes. Mm-hmm. And we were both sitting there like little boys eating this, slivering the mangoes.
Messy mangoes.
And I thought, this is just fantastic, you know. And we had he totally took care of me. But it was already happened. It wasn't like for some people that come to him and things happen.
Right.
So, but he recognized something there. Mm-hmm. And he just took me and helped me, you know. That was, he was really a guru in that way. And we had many amazing times together. He even came to Manali, to Himalaya, and we were together there where I stayed. So it was beautiful.
Nice. So when he said drop the ocean, and that somehow shifted something for you, was it just a kind of a momentary shift that you enjoyed when you were there in his presence eating mangoes? And when you left there, it kind of got back to the delicate thing and sometimes getting caught up in the mind? Or was that like a second awakening in a sense where it really shifted and didn't, in a stable way, it just kind of added a new level of stability to your realization?
Yeah, I just got a more deeper trust or acceptance of the state you know, because even if the shift happens, the mind has been there so long that it still goes on, but you are not so identified with it. But it's also new. So I feel like what you call self-realization or enlightenment, that is a new beginning. Yeah. So the darkness of the past is gone. The suffering is gone. And it's amazing because it's no more darkness, it's no more suffering. But still, it's so new. You have to incorporate, you have to learn how to function, because you still need the mind to function.
Sure.
Yeah, so
you need the body, and you need the senses,
yeah,
and all that.
And it can be so big, like it was in the beginning, that I just surrendered to it. You know, it takes time to incorporate.
Yeah.
And he gave me this push, very strong push again, that it is like it is, and you can let go totally, and the mind will function, do its job by itself. You don't need to be. I don't know what happened, but something happened. It's the grace of the guru, you know.
In some subtle way.
It's a transmission or something. You know?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I was going to ask that. In some subtle way, before he said that, do you think that you had a tendency to kind of hold on a bit to the ocean and push away a bit at the mind when the mind was, you know, trying to do its thing, and he just inspired you to be more natural, so that you just didn't have to manipulate, and you know, you kind of instilled confidence in you that you weren't going to lose this if you weren't like vigilant every moment to stay on your toes and, you know, hold on to the ocean. Was there anything like that? He just kind of instilled removed some doubts and instilled a certain confidence in you.
Yeah, in a way, but after the first happening in Pune, it was totally, the mind never really taught you, but I had to also find something to ask him, I felt, because I was there, you know. So it was something that happened in that moment, like he himself said happened with Ramana when he talked with Ramana. It was, I don't know, it's like beyond any what is said. It could be anything, you know, but it's something happened, something transpired there, and that was not. It was even more shifts happening on a deeper and deeper level. I felt the last thing that went for me, it was a kind of a. I think the last thing that goes is doubt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's why I use the word doubt. It's sort of like doubt is this dry rot, you know, which kind of keeps us from accepting it fully or something.
Yeah, accepting it, and that is it's real, you know. That you have this kind of doubt, or the mind itself is doubt, or you have a self-doubt. That how can this, it's almost like how can this happen to me, but it is happening. So that takes time to integrate. And that I remember also when that moment was where it was totally gone. I mean, for many years I became very, very sensitive afterwards. I couldn't even drink chai, which I loved, or coffee, or beer, or anything.
Right.
It took maybe 4 or 5 years. I was super sensitive.
Yeah.
But then I started practicing again. So now I can drink beer even.
You start practicing what?
Taking in some
just
normal
doing some of
things.
that stuff, you mean?
Yeah, to get used to that again, you know?
Yeah.
Because you can take it totally the other way also, but then you become very reclusive, you know? I think that could also happen, you know, like you become protected in that space. But I wanted to integrate it. It's like the Buddha at the gas station, no? It's like that.
Yeah, right.
That is the new thing.
That's the idea, yeah.
But
yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Some years later than that again, which I really had, it was just a very peaceful years then, because it was all new, and I was in India. It was a beautiful place, it's beautiful people. But then I was in the heart of India, and I was walking out to a cliff that was sticking out like a mini Grand Canyon. And I was laying down there, and I fell asleep on this cliff on like an island out. And when I woke up there, it's a fantastic. It's like not polluted at all by people. Then when I opened my eyes, I saw a little monkey baby with the mother eating some fruit just 3-4 meters away from me. And in that moment, I felt like I'm in the paradise, you know? I'm in the garden of paradise. Everything was so simple, everything was just ordinary, everything was just so beautiful, everything was just so lovely. It was like then tears came, just of beauty, you know, and that I remember then something just like melted totally. It was a total meltdown. Then the last, that it is so beautiful, you know? It is real.
Yeah.
But without the words, it's impossible to talk about it, you know? I'm doing my best.
I'm getting the sense of it.
Yeah.
And I have a feeling that what you're saying is that, you know, this incident with the cliff and the monkey was like another shift, and it was more of a heart shift. The previous one had been like, I am the ocean, kind of in a way a mind shift into kind of a cosmic unbounded awareness, and that this was more of a heart awakening, where everything, you know, there was an enhanced appreciation of everything. Would that be true to say?
Yeah, you have to. I mean, first, I think on the spiritual path, people want to go from the denseness, from the suffering, from the problems, higher, no? So they want to go out, but that is a big job. That's a struggle. They have to let go of all what is holding them back, no? So that takes the work. If that happens, then again you have to incorporate that down again, because I see some people can just sit with it here in the intellectual, you know, talking about it.
Right.
It has to be incorporated into the physical, you know. So you become very human.
Yeah. You know how we were talking in the beginning about this change that seems to be taking place in the world, or in the kind of the culture, with awakenings becoming more and more common? I've seen a trend that is similar to what you just described, where there has been a phase where a lot of people have had kind of an awakening, but it has more of an intellectual flavor, or even if it's experiential, it's not integrated into the human, as you say, to use your words. And these days, the word embodiment is all the rage. You know, there's so many people that are talking about becoming embodied, becoming integrated, you know, living not just as spiritual beings, but also as human beings, and somehow fully bringing the two of those into one larger whole. So it does seem to be the kind of the direction in which contemporary spiritual development is moving, in my experience.
Yeah, let's hope so, you know.
Yeah.
Let's hope so, because we should be human, no? That's why, like, the heart is such a balancing point, no? So you have it's a lot of people that talking just maybe they have it, but it's like it's just from here, and people, they have already too much in their heads.
Yeah.
They have to be more empty here, more full in the heart, sinking down to the heart, the belly, being, just a natural living. It's no big fuss, you know. It's no big fuss. All the teaching and all the sadhanas and all the meditation, all that will go. You know, you will just be a natural, free human being, you know. It's no separation. We are all part of it. We just been so long separated, keeping ourselves separated.
But you know, it's a little bit of a delicate thing, because, like, for instance, you were with Osho for a dozen years, and then another year after he passed away, and then you had your awakening. Now, what if, you know, after 6 years instead of 13, you had sort of convinced yourself that you were awake, and whatever doubts your mind was entertaining, you thought, nah, I'm not going to have those doubts anymore. I'm already enlightened. There's nothing to do, nowhere to go. you know, whatever I am experiencing, this is the reality. And I'm actually using words that I hear people using these days whom I often don't think have actually had a genuine realization, but as you were just saying, they're very much in the head, and they've read too many books, and they kind of like have gotten a little bit hypnotized with this line of thinking. And so I see it as sort of a pitfall or a trap sometimes, a stumbling block on people's path, where we could call it premature immaculation. There's this sort of premature assumption that I'm enlightened and I don't need to do anything, as opposed to someone like yourself who maintained, as I gather, maintained a certain devotional or stance and didn't assume anything, and then when genuine realization came, it was unmistakable. So have you run into this as a teacher, you know, and what would you care to say about it?
A lot. And that is, I mean, that must come from somebody, because I don't even say that I'm enlightened. What is enlightenment? I'm just a natural, free human being, you know. It's like, it's just words, you know. Yeah, self-realization, yeah, maybe, because you realize who you are, or you don't even realize who you are, you realize who you are not.
Yeah.
And if you, so it's all the paradox to talk about, how to talk about it. The closer you come to the truth, the more difficult it is. That's why I say I'm not out there to spread that I have a big teaching, or no, it's very simple, you know. It's so easy that it's so easy to miss also. It's so close that it's, you know, it's so close that closer than you think. So don't think about it. It's like all that has to go, you know.
Yeah.
But people have all this, and of course you see, because we are so much, especially in the West, we are so developed in the head, that is the first. You have to empty all that garbage and all those thoughts and all that frustration. How can there be any peace when people go around with all that? That's the first thing. That's what is the work, you know. That is the sadhana, first to empty yourself, and then only you can start being more sensitive and listen, go deeper, and meditation can start. That meditation comes later. First you have to do work on yourself. You have to see, you have to grow, you have to empty all the garbage. And how can they have any, I mean, it's ridiculous as it is, you know, when people say this. I have nothing to say, you know, but they are already too much mental now. You have to empty that, because when you touch somebody in the heart, when you talk from the heart and you know you have established the connection there, then there is more trust. It's a relaxation, because it's not my opinions and your opinions, it's the truth, you know. It has nothing to do with any teaching, any religion, anything. It's just now, here, open, free, beautiful. And then you feel it, you get goose pimples, you know.
Goosies, they call them, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of reminded of Christ saying that except you be as little children, you shall not enter the kingdom of heaven. And I'm sure that doesn't mean peeing in your pants. It means having a sort of an innocence and a kind of a naturalness, and which brings with it an openness, you know, like
totally.
Not a thing of I have all the answers already, so who am I going to listen to? But more like, what do I know for sure, you know? So I think I'll listen to whatever comes along that sounds, you know, useful. Yeah.
I mean, that's always in India. They said when you are ready, when you can accept that you don't know, then only can you get anything out of the satsang. You know, you have to empty yourself to be available for something that is beyond you. No, it's a mystery. You know, you cannot learn it, but you can catch it in a way. You know.
So when somebody comes to you, let's say in Norway or Brazil, and they're brand new, how do you help them empty themselves, or how do they end up getting more emptied by being there? What do they go through so that they can become, more fit to go deeper?
We have a lot of different meditations, therapy, dance, creativity, sharing, self-inquiry, hypnosis, physical things, creative things, you know, all these things, the whole spectra is more to get people more in tune with themselves. Find that innocence again, which is the most important. Because people, they are not happy first. You know, because you are, when you get lost in your mind, you lose your heart. Heart is happy, it's spontaneous, it's free. So the first thing is to lose the seriousness, I would say, to become like a child.
Yeah.
To teach them that, to create a safe place where you can let go. And then that let go-ness, I would say, it goes deeper and deeper. Yeah. First, the holdings outside, who I am, who I think I am, I have to behave like this or like that. And deeper, how, if you can't even let go of that, how can you let go of your whole identity, which is what meditation is all about, to go beyond your image, no? So it's a gradual thing, and that is again the paradox, because you are already there, but people have to loosen up. They are too tense. You understand?
Oh yeah. There's a verse in the Gita which goes, the unreal has no being, the real never ceases to be. And you know, you can read that as meaning that, you know, you're already there. I mean, there's nothing but that reality. How could there be anything other than that? But that's still a concept, you know, unless it becomes an experience, and it doesn't necessarily become experience on reading that verse one time or contemplating that idea one time. You know, wouldn't you agree that there have been years, if not lifetimes, of conditioning, layer upon layer upon layer, that somehow have to be purified or cleared away before we can begin to seriously, you know, realize this stuff as an experience rather than as a concept?
Yeah, it has to. That is what is the homework, I would say, to cleanse oneself. That many people come to satsang, they want to go from that denseness to that beyond, because they are longing for that, like people before, or maybe still, longing for heaven in the afterlife, no? Because it's so terrible here. Why? Be happy here. So that is you have to transform your own life into a happy life. Then it's easy. When you have happiness, when you have peace, when you are truthful, which people talk about, but to be truthful, that takes some guts. You have to be really truthful. But in that truthfulness, then you cleanse yourself. In that cleansing, the spirit gets stronger. You have to be strong in spirit. Then you become integrated human being. Most people are not integrated. They are all scattered. There are many, many personalities. And all the personalities have to go. To become that simplicity again, you know, that innocent, that childlike nature, that spontaneous nature that is present in the now. So it is a gradual thing most of the time, but when it happens, it's instant. So it's both.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you're taking a boat across a river, or you know, across an ocean, then it's gradual as you go across. But when you get to the other shore, boom, it's instant. You're on the shore.
Yeah.
So there's no contradiction there. And you don't jump out of the boat halfway across the river thinking, well, this should be more instant. I'd rather just be done with this. I'm jumping. You know, you'd be in trouble if you do that.
Yeah, so I think my main thing is just to share the love and the happiness, because out of that love and happiness and togetherness and in love in life again, that you loving your life, then creativity comes, and then the energy starts moving by itself, higher, freer. So this, the first thing is to create the right base for it. That people are free, they feel happy, you know. And there's been so much suffering, and you see that now it's like depression, stress. It's never been like that, you know. Prosecnation, you know, like
Right. Yeah.
it's like that, you know.
Yeah. I mean, so many
It,
people have insomnia. Yeah.
all that, you know, it has to change, and people have to start taking responsibility for that change.
Yeah. So I get the sense that the role you're playing is to create an atmosphere which is saturated with love, and in which, if people place themselves in that atmosphere, then the tight knots of tension and stress and constriction can relax a lot more quickly and safely than they could in other atmospheres that they might ordinarily be in.
Yes. And in that relaxation, then you can go deeper.
Right.
And deeper and deeper and deeper. And that is the stopping, you know, to stop. But how to stop is almost impossible if you don't have a place to stop where you want to stop. No?
In other words, what you're saying is if you're caught up in your usual everyday life, it's very difficult to make that sort of transition. But if you can take a break from that and get in a loving, protective, supportive atmosphere, then it becomes easy. Is that what you just said?
It is easier, yeah. That is why it's always easier in communes or in spiritual gatherings, or in meditation with fellow travelers in the Sangha, you know, like this. Of course it is. Not that one should get stuck there, no, but you need that help.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's your life, yeah, fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But like Buddha said, the best, if, you know, as a seeker on the path, the worst is to be with the unconscious, you know, find conscious people. If you don't have conscious people, if you don't have people that's coming more from the truth, then stay alone, make your own little beautiful place. You know, you can do your thing, come back, have a meditation, dance in your apartment like that. But even better than that is to have a gathering, a sangha, a commune of fellow travelers. It's supposed, and you know that. And then if you have a Buddha there also, of course, then you have
all the better.
Yeah, it's like that, no?
Yeah.
It's very simple.
Yeah, and that is so traditional. I mean, in every culture, I think that understanding is expressed in one way or another, that, you know, the company you keep makes a big difference. And if you can be in the company of the enlightened, however that's defined, it's going to be very conducive to your growth. And if, you know, and if there's a teacher there, like you say, a Buddha, a master, someone who has, you know, really awakened to a profound degree, then it's going to be an even more powerful atmosphere. So it's a great blessing to be able to be part of such a thing.
It is.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah. Are you married? Do you have a partner or anything like that?
I have a partner.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Been with a long time?
Yeah.
So, I just want to say to my friend Dan, who is fielding the questions, if anything has come in, go ahead and send them. I'll ask Vasant those questions. Someone said, I read someplace that you went on to spend some time with Ramesh Balsakar also after Papaji?
Yeah, well, he was on my way there in Bombay. No? I was living more or less in India a very long time. I had traveling a lot, so I went to him also, and we became very good friends, enjoying each other.
Good.
But it wasn't anything new for me, but it was just a beautiful man, you know. I wasn't seeking anymore.
Yeah.
So I remember he just came always to hug me, you know. It's like that. There wasn't any questions,
Right.
but it was the love of truth, or to be with somebody like that, you know. So I had met many known and unknown like that. And I know also people in India that lives very quietly with just 5-6 people around them, beautiful enlightened beings, you know. So you have the whole scale.
Yeah. Do you feel like there's particular advantage to having a really small group like that, or is it really like just, as they say, different strokes for different folks, and according to what you're attracted to? That a big, huge crowd kind of thing could have its value, and also a very small, intimate one could have its value according to what you're attracted to.
I feel the intimacy is uncomparable because it's human, you know, it's like how it always been. It's like Papaji said, that truth never lives in big gatherings, you know, it is in small. And that's my feeling. I don't say it has to be that, because I know people can get a lot out of a big gathering also when people speak the truth.
Right.
But it takes time, you know. I stopped traveling around, having a satsang here and there and in that city, because people, they just came, oh, are we going to go to satsang? Are we going to go to the movie tonight, you know? So I want the people who are more devoted to themselves or to the truth.
How many, you mentioned that, you know, being in your, you didn't call it an ashram, but being in your facility is not a permanent thing. People go out in the world and do their normal thing, but do you have like a core group in each place, Norway and Brazil, who stay there year round, or what? Yeah,
it's, I think it's like the bees for the honey, you know? When the honey is there, the bees come.
Yeah.
So it has, here in Brazil, it's a whole village around. It's happening and it's beautiful. Oh. It's really a place of freedom. Maybe 100 people have come here. You know, it was nobody when I started here. You know.
Nice. And so they're building little homes and
they are
buying
houses and schools and work and everything. You know, and give sessions and teach yoga and all the things that all these people do. You know.
Cool.
Yeah. And the same in Norway, but in Norway it's more difficult because we are more in the beautiful mountains, you know? So it's not so easy. Here it's more, and in Brazil it's like I always say it's my new India, you know, because it's pleasant and it's good fruits and vegetables and people are very relaxed. So it's very easy. We are very well treated here, to say it that way, you know, because some places in Europe, in America, they have this old Christian, you know, denseness. Yeah. And that is not here at all.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. Yeah, really. It's interesting. I know when I spent some time in India, and first of all, when you first go there, there's like this feeling of softness in the atmosphere, you know? And it's just like, soft feeling. And then you come back, you fly back to the United States, and you land at Kennedy Airport or something, and you start driving around. There's this kind of denseness or hardness or grossness or something that's in the atmosphere that contrasts quite noticeably when you go back and forth like that.
It is different energies in different places, of course.
Yeah.
And India, for anybody, I think, on this path, or who is into themselves, meditation, self-inquiry, it will feel like coming home, because it is special there still. Even though it's changing a lot, of course.
Getting westernized.
Getting westernized so quickly, you know, but you have that, because for thousands and thousands of years. And it's the only place I have been where I come into place, a temple, an area, or in the Himalayas, and I can feel like, whoa, it's been like this for thousands of years, you know, like I'm embraced. That's how I feel. You are embraced. If you are sensitive to it, you get embraced by it. The peace.
Yeah. I think it's worth dwelling on that point for a moment, just that, you know, a certain place can get, I don't think this idea will be too alien to the listeners, but a certain place can get just saturated with Shakti or with certain quality, as you say. If there's been something going on there of a spiritual nature for thousands of years, it just gets soaked into the rocks, so to speak. And,
it does.
Yeah.
It does. And that is very much in certain places in India. And they have that. I remember Papaji, I went to Gangotri, which is the beginning of the Ganges, which was quite a nice walk.
Yeah.
And I filled a luta, a kind of a container for him, with this holy water where it just came out from the glacier. And because I knew he had this love, like Mother Ganga, no? Which it's not like that for me, but I love it. But I felt like this area where the Ganges is coming out from the glacier is very unique. It's dense of good spirits, you know. It's yogis who have died, mystics, enlightened beings. It's superb, the whole area there. And when I came down again, and I told him I brought this from the Ganges, from Gangotri, he was ecstatic, like a child. And the first thing he took, he was drinking it and spluttering it to everybody who was in the room, like blessings, you know. And for him, it was so real, you know, and it's so beautiful, you know, to see this. It's like you know it, but for an ordinary person, a Westerner, they think it's just silly, you know. But it's from your soul, you know.
Right. I'll tell you a funny story. I have a couple hundred friends who live in ashrams up in Uttarakhand, and another guy who lives up in Gangotri a lot of the time, actually. And he sent me a Facebook message recently. He said, there's a beautiful sadhu in Gangotri who loves your Buddha at the gas pump stuff. He lives in Gangotri year-round, much of the time with no electricity. His kutia, which means a little hut, is buried in snow. He lives there, like he's one of only 6 people who live there throughout the winter. But somehow he found your site and loves it. So I thought that was kind of cool.
That's great.
Yeah, I mean, somehow he has electricity. Somehow he gets they get an internet signal through a cell tower in the area. So kind of amusing.
Really, really nice. I have a very dear friend there also who is an enlightened being, but he just have 5 or 10 people around him there in that area between Uttakashi and Gangotri. And he's not interested in more, you know. It's like, that's what I mean. You have people, I know enlightened people that I met one, in fact, that was sitting under a blanket. He didn't want to say anything. He even wanted to hide when you came. And then you have people who want to speak to the whole world. No? You have everything.
Yeah, I mean, there's stories of, I guess it was in Yogananda's book, of people who throw rocks at anybody who tries to come. They just want to keep them away. You know, it's just not their dharma to deal with big groups.
Yeah. I keep the middle way.
yeah, somewhere in between. Well, you know, that thing I started out with, bees in the garden, I really get the sense, and maybe we can talk about this for a few minutes and let's see if any questions come in. Maybe no questions have been sent in this time, but you know, we're all, I mean, if we understand God to be omnipresent and all-pervading and so on, then we're really all just sort of reflections or expressions of that divine intelligence. And the more you were talking earlier about purification, the more we purify or clarify our instrument, the more kind of full we can be as an expression, and the more we can be a kind of a servant of God or a tool of the divine. And I'll bet you have a sense of that very profoundly in your own life, that it's not really you doing anything. It's more like you have just somehow put yourself in the position to be useful to divine intelligence, and you're just kind of spontaneously carrying out the impulses of that kind of like deeper, more profound intelligence. Does that kind of ring true with you?
Totally.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty, because one has no more problem. You are just a servant.
Yeah.
Servant of love, servant of truth, servant of grace, servant of God. Call it what you want. But nothing can be more. That's why we are here.
And there's something very blissful and joyful in that, isn't there?
Yes, everything that is true, everything that is right, everything that is God, everything that is love is blissful, no? They say Satchit Ananda in India, no? The last is Ananda, bliss. It's higher than truth even, you know? And you cannot talk about it, but it's the ecstasy of just feeling oneness, or being part, or being at the service of the good, of the beauty.
Yeah. No, that's really sweet. And sometimes people downplay that. In fact, I have a friend who recently told me he was getting a lot of flack on Facebook because he was talking about bliss a lot. And some people's understanding of realization doesn't really include bliss very much. They think of that as kind of more of an emotional thing, whereas realization is just this cognition of reality that's not terribly heart-filled. But, you read the lives of even the great non-dualists, Shankara, Ramana, Papaji, Nisargadatta, and they all had this devotional side that in which they reveled in the bliss and the joy and the ananda, as you say, and found great sustenance in that, great sweetness.
Yeah, those who say they don't know what they're talking about, because I've been rolling on the floor with Papa in bliss, and so many of these non-dual or Ramana, they don't know. It becomes dry, it becomes mental. It's not integrated. When that bliss get absorbed into your whole body, you become a blissful being. You don't need to wait to become an angel. It is blissful. Then life itself is bliss. It's joyful, and that's how it should be. It's a gift.
Yeah, I remember.
And you are grateful. It's a gratefulness, and that gratefulness can only come when that love is there. I don't know. I never think about it. I'm trying to formulate words. I'm not.
Well, you're doing
very
okay.
Difficult to talk.
No, you're doing a good job. And the reason I like talking about this is, well, firstly, it doesn't get talked about too much, but these qualities of bliss and gratitude and devotion and there's a whole realm of sweetness and sumptuousness that is sometimes left out of spiritual discussions, but it's it really is a kind of a delightful feature of the whole thing of spiritual evolution, in my opinion. I mean, there's nothing dry or heartless about full realization. It's like a life of joy. And I'm not speaking necessarily from any sort of personal authority. I mean, I'm a work in progress. It's a matter of growing happiness and growing bliss for me. But I've had enough tastes of it and seen enough examples of it to know that it's something well worth aspiring to, and that 1 minute of life in that state realized fully one would derive more happiness than an entire lifetime in many ordinary states.
That's how it is.
Yeah.
If just one taste, then it will change. And that's why I said this with the intimate gathering, or what is, in India they call satsang. If it's real satsang, that nectar is dripping, then just one taste and people transform, they change. They have to change because they've been living in lies, they've been living in illusions. So just one taste, something changed. And that can be a start to a more happy life, freer life, real life. So we need to recognize that, to be open. So when even spiritual, like you say, even spiritual people have these ideas, it doesn't make sense. We have to be open to so many teaching. You have a Mira, she was just dancing ecstatically in bliss. You had Ramana Maharshi, he was just sitting there, but he was very juicy. And for me, what is more juicy than to be part of this? It doesn't make sense,
No, he was a great devotee of Arunachal.
Don't hold back, I just want to shake them, You are both, you have the physical, but you have the ecstasy also.
Yeah, and Shankara, who was considered the founder of Advaita, he wrote all sorts of beautiful devotional poetry and was really a great a bhakta, as well as being a great, jnani.
I see no separation
Conflict.
from that, from bhakti and jnani or Advaita or Sufis. I see no separation when they are like this. It's like you have love and you have meditation, you have self-inquiry and you have bliss. It's like they come together. It's on the path you can talk about these things, but in the end is one, suddenly you are blissful totally, and one day you're totally in the silent. It's like that, it's just different aspect of God, I would say.
Yeah. There's a beautiful talk I heard one time about realization of God, and it was phrased in the way that, as once awakening has occurred, the ability to appreciate really begins to ramp up. It really begins to become much more profound, and the appreciation just accelerates and accelerates to the point where the desire to know God becomes really acute. And the example used is if, someone was appreciating some artist's work and thinking, oh, this is such a great artist, I would really love to meet this artist, his work is so beautiful, And eventually the artist hears that, keeps hearing that some man here in this village appreciates me so much, I think I'll go and meet him. And, surprise him maybe. So God comes to meet someone who is really capable of appreciating, God or the artist comes to meet someone who is really capable of appreciating his creation. So I just thought I'd throw that little story in there. You might like it, but you seem to be a great devotee, and yeah.
Yeah, I'm a devotee of truth, of life, of love, of joy, of ecstasy, of all, It's all. It's in the oneness is all. And you are attracted to it. Came a time, I tell you a little story also with Papaji, that after this love affair and this caretaking of Papa, then when I came to India a year later, I had this, I was always going to visit him before I go to the Himalayas. Just out of respect, out of love, nothing, I didn't look for anything, just like pranam.
Yeah.
And then I came to Delhi and I realized that I can't go there. I'm not going there.
To Lucknow?
Why? Yeah. Why? This was like inside my head, I should go there because I always go there. No, but I cannot go. And it was very strange because I couldn't go there and I didn't know what. Then I went to my place in the mountains in Manali and I was wondering, what am I doing here? It's like, why didn't I go there? I was supposed to go there, but I was supposed to go to Lucknow first. And just 2 days after I came, I went to the hot bath. They have these hot baths there from the springs. And I opened the door into the bath, and out comes Papaji, straight into my belly, belly to belly. And he said, Swaha, you are here? Did you know I was here? And I said, no, I didn't know. I didn't know you were here. Come. That was it. And then he took me to his hotel. And then that was amazing. And then I really felt like here now, even the master, I cannot escape. It's effortless. Even the master comes to me, because that's how it was in those days. I had that deep respect, which I still have for anybody like that, of course. And we went to his hotel, and he had a few devotees with him, and I said, this is not so nice, I have a much nicer place. So I took him to the place I stayed, which he liked a lot, and he just moved in there. And here we were staying together in the same house. And then I took him around all the sides in the mountains, because I had a car there, also a little Jeep, an Indian Jeep.
Yeah.
So that's how it is, it's like, you don't know, but if you just trust, if you are surrendered to that, if you are a servant of that, it will happen, you know. It's impossible. Even if you don't do anything, it will happen, you know.
That's a very cool story. And it sort of shows in a way how an awakened person's life can work, where you just feel to go this way, and for reasons you can't understand, you go this way, and yet then you see maybe in retrospect, oh, so that's why I went this way, you know, because this and that happened. I met this person, or such and such happened, and so on. And so you know, it kind of makes you wonder, well, really, what is the mechanism of that? You know, letting the dogs in and out here. What is the intelligence that is orchestrating such a thing, that was causing your mind to say, no, I'm not going to Lucknow, and you know, just kind of like move the pieces of the puzzle together so that they met at that place in the Himalayas. It's cool to contemplate.
Yeah, it's something there on a higher level, you know, that is happening, that you are not so used to yet, because now these things are much more smooth, you know, this is happening like. But at that time, a few times, it was really like that, your mind, because you had the plan.
Yeah, yeah.
And then your reality, no, you are not going there.
This
so
is
it
not
was
the
like
plan.
this.
Yeah.
So you have to trust, you know.
In my own life, I've gone through phases where that's been happening, you know. Well, for instance, doing this show, I had this idea that I was going to do a little radio show on a local station here in my town that has about a 10-mile radius, and I kept pushing on that, and I kept getting resistance, and it wasn't working out. And, you know, and finally some friend said, you know, you're thinking too small, put this on the internet, it'll become much more worthwhile. So that I ended up doing that. So, you know, it kind of was a no-brainer to do the radio show. Why wouldn't, I mean, this is a very spiritual town I live in, a lot of people would find it interesting, but it was like something was, or causing the people at the radio station to resist the idea, and you know, it was the perfect thing. I'm so glad they did. But then other times in my life, I've followed whims and tendencies that I thought might be some kind of divine guidance, and they weren't so much. So, you know, it's nice when it becomes more and more and more clear, so that you're not just kind of muddling around thinking that it's God guiding you.
Yeah. Well, it comes to a point where it's only God guiding you, because there's no more you in the way.
There's no more you to muddle, yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't say that I'm totally there yet, but it's you know, it's moving in that direction.
But soon.
Yeah. Great.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, well, is there anything else you'd like to throw in that we haven't had a chance to talk about, that you know, you feel like you'd like people to hear?
I'm just happy that all this is happening, and that there's more and more people awakening, and that we can share the love and the joy, and in this way also that it spreads, and that we feel each other and support each other. And today is the 21st of March, and that was the Enlightenment Day of my master.
Oh.
And without my master, I wouldn't be here. So it's for all the enlightened ones, past, future, moment. I'm very happy and grateful for all of the enlightened ones. So I think we should all be grateful for them from any traditions, any part, because we all work for one, is to uplift the consciousness, and that people become more happy, free, self-realized.
Great, that's a nice blessing. So thank you for that. So let me just make some wrap-up points. I've been speaking with Vasant Swaha. He's in Brazil at the moment. Someone told me it's about 4 hours south of Rio.
Yeah, it's the most beautiful place, of course.
Yeah, and check out his website. I'll be linking to his website from his page on batgap.com, but it's a really beautiful website, and I've asked him to send me the name of his web developer, because I have people who would like to have their websites look like that. When you're not there, you're generally in Norway. Do you sometimes lead tours to India or anything like that also?
Yeah, I was just in Thailand just a month ago,
Okay.
And I go to India, so it's Brazil, Norway, India, and Thailand.
Cool. Is that a bird? You got birds,
It's
I've got
good.
dogs.
Yeah, I heard. He wanted to go out now.
Yeah, I know.
It just starts raining now.
Oh, better. You have something over your head, I hope?
It's beautiful, yeah, it's beautiful.
Good. Okay. So for those who've been listening or watching, this is an ongoing series. I think I've done about 280 of them now. So if you go to batgap.com, B-A-T-G-A-P, you'll find them all archived and organized in various ways. You'll find a link to Vasant's website. You'll find a list of upcoming interviews, quite a few of them, some of them scheduled as far away as next September. And the ones that are done through Skype, we're making live now, streaming, so that people can send in questions. And there's a form on that upcoming interviews page that you can use to submit questions during the interview. There is also a donate button, which I depend upon people clicking if they feel so inspired in order to support this whole venture. There's a place to sign up to be notified of each new interview by email. There is an audio podcast of all these interviews so that you can just listen on your iPod or Android device or whatever. There's a page that gives you all the options for that. And a bunch of other things. Explore the menus and you'll see what's there. So thanks for listening or watching. Thank you, Vasant. It's been a great joy.
Rick. Yeah, it has been. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, hope to meet you in person someday. Give you a big hug.
Yeah, I was thinking the same.
That
so
would be nice.
It has to happen.
Yeah.
May everybody be happy, and let's relax now.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Namaste.
Namaste.